This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development by a group of guys with one thing in common. We love Drupal. Recorded live on Wednesday afternoons in a Google Hangout. Visit us at talkingdrupal.com. This is episode 56, July 23rd, OTF number 3. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Steve. Welcome back.
Thank you. You know what? Everyone's telling me welcome back. I've been gone for like 7 days, but it seems like it's been a month.
Well, we had our own little sort of unintentional hiatus the week before.
Yeah,
so
I can give you some really interesting details about that too. By the way, I'm not sure I should do that in a podcast, but I think I will anyway. So. First, welcome everybody. Let's welcome everyone in first, and then I'll go through and tell you my dilemma that I had that prevented us from recording a few weeks ago. So let's start with Jason. He's always on my far left. Hi, Jason. Palmental from HW Design, and the author of an upcoming book about fonts, and it's titled, I can't remember the title, I'm sorry.
Responsive Typography.
Awesome.
This is actually my final edited draft. I'm very excited.
Very nice.
You know, Jason, congratulations. We've been sort of sitting here in the back end listening to you work on this for, it feels like 2 years. How long has it actually been?
It's probably been more than that.
Oh, has it been?
Oh, yeah. Well, there was like an extended hiatus where I was working in a startup and didn't have time, and then I was starting my own business and didn't have time, and then O'Reilly smartly said, okay, we're going to cancel this. And that, of course, immediately made me like scramble, pull all the stuff that I'd been writing together and go back and say, but wait. And so they said, okay,
I found time.
But you know what? The truth is, truly, it's a better book today than it was
yeah.
12 months ago, 2 months ago, or 2 weeks ago, probably, right?
Oh, it is, absolutely, because that it was the article that I wrote for Typecast that did so well that made me refocus it around responsive typography, and that was a huge change in the book, and it pulled together a lot of stuff that I've been writing separately in like different websites and magazines for the last year or so, and the edits that I've been getting from Aaron Gustafson and Jen Robbins are out of this world good. So it's just made it a much better book. I'm really, really excited about it.
Well, congratulations. I know it's coming out soon, so I hope all of our listeners have taken out their Visa and MasterCards and contributed to your success and their knowledge. So, John Picozzi joins us also from Oomph. How you doing, John?
I'm fabulous, Steve. Just back from our Boston office yesterday for our WordPress mixer. Was up there learning a little bit about how the other half codes CMSs.
So what is a WordPress mixer?
It's very similar to a local Drupal meetup. Our company is half Drupal developers, half WordPress developers. So what we try to do is we try to do community events as much as possible. And we decided to do a WordPress summer mixer. So we got a bunch of community members involved. We co-sponsored with WP Engine, which is a hosting platform for WordPress. So one of our guys gave a talk, one of their guys gave a talk, and we had a good time.
So, John, when you do these mixers, are these focused to bring developers in or business people?
Both.
Yeah.
You know, we're always looking for talent. So you know, if you're a developer, you know, we'd like you to come in. But also business owners. You know, they're very informative. Our talk was actually more on the business end of things than it was on the WordPress end of things. And the WP Engine guys were doing something that was more on the development side of things. So there was a little bit for everybody.
That's good. We also have Nick Laughlin from Enlightened Design.
How you doing? Looking forward to having the show again. It's been kind of a hole in my week for the last couple of weeks, but it's always good to get some rest, I guess. And looking forward to having another off the cuff.
So, Nick, I assume you're going to thank us for the extra hour you received, right? Or an hour and a half you received in your week, right?
Yeah, it was good.
I can't help but notice the T-shirt that you're wearing from the people watching us on video. It looks like there's Mickey Mouse ears, which will lead us into our first discussion today. But what is that a logo of?
I have to say it's not Mickey Mouse, it's Dead Mouse. He's
Okay.
dead.
The anti-Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, he's not a, I don't know if you call him a band performer. He does like electronic techno music.
Yeah, never heard of him. So, well, thank you. But it looks like Mickey Mouse to me. So, also for those of you on video, I just want to point out I'm going to get a free plug today. Not that I'm not sure it will make any impact, but I got new glasses. If you need glasses, if you're a glasses wearer, check out $39glasses.com. I bought these glasses before I went on vacation, and it's $39 for the frame and the prescription, unless you want anything special with the lenses. I think I paid $45 for glasses. It's really crazy.
Wow.
I mean, in the past I paid $200-300, so free plug completely for them. But check out 39glasses.com. I recommend everyone do that.
Cool.
It makes it affordable to actually buy a second pair that's like sunglasses, right? In the past, that was like crazy. $600 you're in for a pair of sunglasses and regular glasses. So anyway, so there's a free plug. So let's get on to our agenda for today. So with Mickey Mouse as part of the topic, I was on vacation last week and went to Disney World. The last time I was there was 4 years ago, and a lot has changed from a tech side in Disney. And we had our weekly book club this morning, the Web Design Book Club, and we ended up spending the whole time talking about Disney wearables. Meaning, that when you go to Disney World today, you could actually get a band that you put around your wrist, sort of like a Fitbit Flex product, that it fits on your wrist like a watch. But that band is your key to everything in Disney. For me, I stayed in the park at a park hotel, which there's, I don't know how many hotels there are in that vicinity, but it's probably about 500 square miles of park in Florida. So there's 4 parks that you can attend, like Disney World, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. And then you got the hotels, and you got the boat rides and all that stuff. That band that you buy and put on your wrist is your ticket to get into the parks, is your hotel access, which means access to your room and any of the facilities in the hotel property. Which today, if you go to a hotel, you get a room key. You can swipe the key to go into your room, swipe the key to go into the exercise room or get to the pool. It's the same sort of thing. When you go to the park, it's your entrance into the park. When you purchase anything in the property, so in that 500 square mile radius, it's when you buy anything. So it's buying a souvenir, buying dinner, eating in a restaurant. Anything you do that costs money is swiping that wristband. And there's
note adding a pin to that.
So then there's a bunch of questions that come up, like Jason just mentioned. Is there security? Well, anytime you spend money, you have to type in a 4-digit PIN as well. So I'm sitting at the pool. I want to get a drink at the bar. I go up to the bar. I put my wristband, so it's RFID technology, and it's close technology. So I have to actually touch my band to the payment tool there, and then it prompts me to type in a PIN, a 4-digit PIN that I set up ahead of time. I type the 4-digit PIN in, and I've paid for my beverage, which of course was a Diet Coke. And I go back to the pool. So yeah, anytime you're spending money, you have to type in a bin. There's a lot of places you can use the band where you're not typing in this. I said bin, but I meant PIN. I type in this PIN number. Like to get into your hotel room, you just kind of take your wrist, stick it up to the door handle, and the door unlocks. It sounds shocking, but it's just like using a hotel swipe card. You swipe it through the key thing, and you get into your hotel room. So, any comments? I could talk for about 90 minutes about the stuff that I did here. But,
I mean, I'm curious about kind of the training and stuff. Like, how do they teach you how to use it? Did you ever find yourself swiping? I mean, the cards in hotels are notoriously bad. I mean, is it kind of because? I mean, is it like my wife has a Toyota Prius. If you have the key in your pocket, you just reach up and grab the door handle and unlocks. Is it similar?
No, yeah. So it's RFID technology for this situation, like for unlocking doors, that requires you to use so you get something on your wrist, think it fit like a watch, and you're placing your watch to the door handle. And the way they do it is they've got a Mickey Mouse outline, so you picture the ears and the shape on your wrist,
yep.
And they've got the same thing on the door handle. You touch those two things together and they unlock. It's the same strategy for any other place that you unlock anything. Like when you go to pay at the bar, you touch your Mickey face on your band to the Mickey Pay thing, and as soon as you do that, the Mickey either turns blue or green. Green means it accepted it. Blue means there's something wrong.
Okay.
It's interesting they didn't use red.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I thought a lot about that, actually.
When we were talking about it this morning, it just made me think, like, it's like big casinos. There's so much effort and thought that goes into the design of those places, and I think, they're both geared toward getting more money out of you. But, I mean, I think it's what's more interesting about the stuff you described with Disney was that the audience for that stuff had to be thought about so carefully to make that drop dead simple, so you don't have to train anyone. You don't have to teach kids how to do it. It's just, there, it makes sense. That's where it goes. And it's pretty amazing.
And some other interesting things they've done, and this is also back to when you had swipe cards before these wristbands, is that they tie the band to the person when you enter the park. So when you go into Animal Kingdom, you walk up and you touch your band to this reader with the Mickey Mouse emblem, and it shows up as white first. So the white means that you now need to stick your finger on the fingerprint reader. So the first time you go into a park, it takes your fingerprint and ties it to the band.
Huh.
So you can't pass the band to another person to get them into the park.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's always sort of who you are personally and what is this device that you're using to get into this event.
It's fascinating to think that it's like true two-factor identification.
It is, yeah.
Without ever telling anybody that's what it is.
That's exactly what it is. So, and there's two ways they do it. One is through the fingerprints, and the second thing is through the PIN number. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Did they say anything to the fact, or do they have any terms of use as far as what they're going to do with your fingerprints once they take it, or is it?
That's a great question, John. I have no idea what that answer is. I bet it's out there. They do have. I wrote a blog post. If you go to stevencross.com, I wrote a blog post about this when I was on vacation last week because it was so exciting to me. And there is. I put a section in there which was the terms and conditions of the use of the band. And the privacy statement, and I bet there's a lot of stuff in there. If you look for Disney.com and look for the privacy statement, that will give you the instructions there on how they use that information and what they use it for. I think it's all there.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to bring up that was really interesting is that they're definitely using location services too. That they're figuring out where you're located in the park, and I got a couple of examples of that. So when I had this band on my arm, in the past, the last time I was at a Disney location was 4 years ago, and when you rode on a ride like a roller coaster, they always take these like snapshots of you, these photos of you going down the biggest hill, and everyone's frightened and excited. And after you get off the ride, you could look at these monitors and find your picture and say, "Oh, I'd like to buy that for $15." What they do today is, because if you have a band on, they take that picture automatically and put it in your account. You don't have to ask for it. It's right there. You can buy it if you want to, but it's using your band to identify who you are and automatically sticking that photograph that they took on that ride in your account connected to your band.
That's fascinating.
Another place I saw that, which was really interesting, is I went into a place for lunch. It was a new attraction at Disney World, at Magic Kingdom, which was I can't remember the name of it. It's in my blog post, but it's a place it's a restaurant, and it's based on the Beauty and the Beast theme. But the interesting thing was, you walk into this place, you go to a kiosk, and you order your food, and then you sit at a table. The table is in this big area, and no one knows where you're sitting, and your food arrives in about 5 minutes. So the interesting thing is that I used my band when I paid for the food, and then when I was just sitting at the table, it connected my payment for my food to where I was located in the restaurant and brought my food to me. It was using my location to bring my food.
That's awesome.
I never told anybody where I was sitting. I didn't put a number on the table. I didn't do anything like that. The food just came over.
I would change seats every 30 seconds to see if they can still find me.
It was interesting because my wife said to someone walking by, "Hey, how do people know where we're going to be sitting?" And the guy turned around and said, "Hey, just whoever used their band to pay for the food, just make sure they stay at the table." And it was an indication of how they were doing that. But you could have a lot of fun with that, I guess, Nick.
Well, I was telling you this morning, a few years ago, we went on vacation down to Tennessee, and we went to Dollyland Splash Country, like a big water park. And the bands that we got there were simpler in one respect because they weren't really tied to anything about entry or exit or money at all. But they did enable this great location feature because all our bands were connected together with the same number. And so if you had that number, then you could go to any one of these boards located around the park and punch in that number, and it lights up where everybody is. So you're actually able to see like where the kids are. If people get separated or they go on another ride or whatever. And so like they were really focusing on it from that not only safety but just kind of keeping tabs on things aspect. That was really fantastic for us because we were able to let the kids just kind of go and do some of their own rides, even though they were still relatively small, because we knew at all times where we'd be able to go find them. It was it's kind of the stuff about wearable technology that I think is most interesting is the stuff that actually doesn't involve a screen at all. These ways of actually tying in location, who you are, and what you can access. I think those are some of the most successful applications of wearable technology that we've seen.
Yeah, I saw something similar actually earlier this year at Dana-Farber. When you're there, they give you a little pin that you put on your shirt, and they know where you are in the hospital at all times. So if you get into distress, they know exactly where you are. But they also use it for provisioning rooms and things. They know the doctor gets notified automatically when the patient gets to the room for the appointment, so they don't have to page them. Once the doctor leaves and the patient leaves, the people that clean the rooms get notified automatically, and
Wow.
they can change it down, turn it down. I think it went as far as guiding you, like if you had to go from one place to a lab, it would like let you know which way to go. And then they had, every once in a while, they had these huge monitors on the wall, and they could, somebody that had access could go up to it and say, "Where's so and so?" and it would show where they were on the map, kind of like the Harry Potter map. It would just show them walking along the halls. It was, it's very cool, but it's also terrifying, I think, in some respects, the kind of data that they're collecting. But
well, we were talking this morning. Oh, sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't. It's just where I sit. I don't see this as terrifying. I see this as so exciting. Like my brain wants to explode over it. I mean, and I've been doing. You guys know I'm doing some work on the food truck stuff that's location based, and the excitement of, to me, is making people's life easier and more convenient because of these services that you can provide to them is just amazing. And to me, that's what, there's a lot of privacy issues that people have brought up on the Disney World side, but I don't see it as that. I see it as making my experience the best I can for the dollars I've spent, which was a lot of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Steve. I think a lot of things that kind of border on privacy, privacy issues are a lot of times they're really very much to make things better, make things work better, or make people's lives better. One thing that came to mind while Nick was saying he was horrified by it is Google's self-driving car, right? There are a lot of people out there that are like very hesitant, very unsure about the self-driving car, and there are other people that are very much like, it would be great if I didn't have to worry about driving to work every morning. If I could get in my car and it would drive to my office, and I could read a book, read my Twitter feed, do any number of other things in the car during that time, take a nap, whatever the outcome is. And I think that, as people become more comfortable with wearable technology, location-based services, and self-driving cars, I think it'll end up being a better world. It'll end up being a better environment for everybody. With that said, I think that there needs to be overwatch. Something that also came up on our call this morning was Facebook. Facebook has more personal information about you probably than any other. Well, maybe second to Google, but Facebook has a lot of your personal information, and most recently they got a slap on the wrist, if you could even call it that, for doing experiments on people that were altering people's moods. Showing them sad content, does it make them sad? Does it make them post sad stuff? Showing them happy content, does it make them happy? Does it make them post happy stuff? And I think those types of, quote unquote experiments, those need to be looked at and dealt with, and to an extent, punished at a much higher rate than some of these other inventions or services that are deemed to be privacy issues.
Well, while in general, I agree with you to an extent. I kind of feel like the punishment that Facebook deserves is people just not using Facebook. I think that.
I think we lost Jason.
I think Jason's internet just went down for the count. I think Facebook got mad at him.
Can you sign up to use the service?
He was about to tell people not to use Facebook, and Facebook just dropped the beep out of him.
So you still can't hear me?
I think yeah, we can now.
Yeah, give it a try again, Jason.
Okay.
Don't say what you're going to say about Facebook.
Yeah, just talk nice.
Right. I think that when you sign up to use a free service, you accept what that free service is going to do. I mean, do I think it was an ethical thing for them to do? No, I don't. I think I think that it's pretty far out there around the bend. But But ultimately, is that something that should be like punishable or like regulated by the government? That's a free service. People don't have to use it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
There's an
I
important
don't know
point.
about that. That's a
Well,
little bit bogus. I mean,
Well, how so?
come on, it's a free service. Fine, I agree with that. You sign up for it. You can choose to use it. You can choose not to use it. But a free service shouldn't be running an experiment on you without your knowledge that's affecting your mental disposition. Disney's giving you a wristband and they're tracking you throughout their park, but they're not doing experiments on you to change your mental disposition.
Um,
or are they?
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know. They talk a
of course
lot
they are.
about, yeah, they talk a lot about the psychology of the parks. I mean, and immersion and all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
just want to point out, I think it's hilarious. On some level, I think Facebook's experiment is hilarious. I mean, I wonder if showing sad content to somebody will make them sad.
Of course, it's a
Probably.
totally ridiculous experiment. Totally
but-
ridiculous. Obviously,
Well,
Well,
it is.
but
and
it wasn't. It
I
wasn't
mean,
ridiculous
yeah.
to them because
not
it
ridiculous.
got them.
Yeah.
It got them data about how to increase
Yeah.
engagement on Facebook, which has apparently
Exactly.
been dropping off. So it's that's a self-reinforcing thing if enough people are pissed off about it.
but to bring my point full circle here, you can't mess with somebody's head without telling them you're doing it, or at least getting an opt-in from them, acceptance from them that you're going to do that. Again, to the point this morning, you go to Disney knowing that it's all about the experience, and that's what they're selling you for your bazillion dollars. Steve said that maybe 5 minutes ago, right? And if this wristband,
John, it was only a half a bazillion, by the way.
whatever, maybe you got a coupon for a bazillion off. I don't know. So if they're giving you a wristband and it's going to enhance your experience and you're going to Disney, those are all known values. You're signing up for that. When you sign up for Facebook, you're signing up to engage with your friends, to see what they're doing. You're not signing up to be experimented on, not to be given sad content to see if it makes you sad. I mean, and I agree with Nick. It's a dumb experiment. Obviously, if I see, dead kittens, I'm going to be sad.
Well, no, let me
alive kittens.
Let me clarify what I was saying. I wasn't saying it was a dumb experiment. I just think it's because those experiments get built on, and who knows? Maybe Facebook will do something good with it. Maybe Facebook will see somebody's posting, posting things that are depressive or something, and they'll post happy stuff so they get more happy.
But
in all likelihood,
all they had to do was ask. All they had to do was put a pop-up in when you sign into Facebook saying, Facebook Labs would like to run some tests on your experience. Is it okay if we manipulate your content to run these tests? Yes, no, maybe. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Okay, great. At least you got permission. You can go ahead with your tests, whatever they may be.
Yeah, but
I'm
they actually
they're
do
in the
have that
terms of
acknowledgement
service.
in the terms of service.
Yeah.
And they
And you
pointed
have
that
to
out.
acknowledge. Yeah, and you have to acknowledge it.
And to be honest, John, the general news feed that I see from Facebook is so screwy, and I have no idea why things are there and in what order. How would I ever even know? So I don't know. I think this is a really dumb and unethical thing that they've done. But it is a private company with a free service, and there's only so much I expect from them, and people are free to vote with their feet.
So two points I want to make. One is that define free. So free means that you didn't pay anything for it, but you're paying in another way, right?
Well,
You're
just
paying-
like with Google.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're paying with data.
The common saying is if you're not paying for the service,
You're paying for it.
then you're the product.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's point one. No, point two that I just want to make is that regardless of, and I agree with John. I think that what they've done is unethical, but I also agree that I can't ever determine what content I'll see from Facebook. It is the reason I don't use it very often, is because I only subscribe. I should say subscribe, but I think it's friending is the right words. I friended maybe 60 people or something, and I want to know what they're doing, but I have no control over that, and it's discouraged me from using the service because I'm interested in knowing what those 60 people are doing, but I have no control of seeing any of that content.
Yeah, I mean that's not entirely true.
It
I mean,
is entirely true.
No, you can, because you can make lists and you can restrict what people. I mean, they make it difficult. They make it very, very difficult, but it's possible to kind of tailor somewhat what you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, I think we all kind of agree that it's not necessarily ethical behavior. I think the question is there, like, should there be a repercussion for them legally for that unethical behavior? And that, I guess, I'm just still kind of on the fence about it, and I'm not really convinced.
So let's do a quick survey. I say no. John, what do you say? Legally, should they be on the fence for this?
I think they should, absolutely. I think,
okay. All right, so that's it. So Nick.
I am not going to be the tiebreaker.
Right.
No, I mean, I actually no. I think that they. I don't know. I think it depends on if harm comes or not. If harm.
So you don't have an opinion.
No.
No opinion. All right. So let's move on to our next topic from today. I know Disney was exciting for me, and the technology, but let's talk about the next thing on our agenda, which I'm going to give 10 minutes to, which is getting involved. So Jason, I turn it over to you.
Well, I brought this up today because specifically because of a talk that John proposed for the Design for Drupal event in Boston, and it's something that comes up often at DrupalCons and at other Drupal events because it is an entirely community-supported piece of software, and pieces of software. You count all the modules and themes, and I think that it very often is is seen to be a rather dense process or an opaque process to figure out how you as an individual could make a contribution. And I think it's really important for us to help define all of the different ways people can contribute, because I think people could do a lot more than they realize to help better Drupal and therefore make it a better thing for them to use.
So what are those ways people could contribute to make it better?
Well, I think by attending and speaking and talking at Drupal events locally. I mean, there's Drupal meetups all the time. We host one. There's several in Boston. There's ones in Connecticut. I mean, they're all over the world. People have pretty regular monthly meetups, and even just by showing up, you are effectively supporting that community, and you'll be learning stuff and making new connections. So like that, I think, is the simplest thing that people could do to sort of get out of their own box of working with Drupal. And I see too many agencies that are doing web stuff and then pick up Drupal but don't realize that the biggest value or the best way of using Drupal is by using Drupal in a community of other people, because then you're not figuring things out on your own.
This is a real interesting question. Have you seen, and I'm asking this to every one of you, have you seen benefits in terms of business, new business, from being involved in the Drupal community?
So Steve, this is actually what my talk is going to be about, or partially about, at Design for Drupal. It's going to focus on exactly that. You know, what are the benefits to your business for being involved in the Drupal community, and how does that also directly affect and benefit the community as a whole? And there definitely are benefits. From Just doing a podcast or writing blog posts. You're driving traffic to your website. You're getting the word out, showing how smart your people are, and how good problem solvers they are. But you're also helping the community with more documentation, more how-tos, more tutorials, and kind of giving that information back of some of the stuff that we break our heads over on a daily basis. Writing a blog post about that is very beneficial to the community because there could be other people that are having that problem.
Hey, John, go ahead, Jason.
Well, I think that is the sort of the next easiest way for people to contribute that I think they really overlook, which is that as soon as you have solved a problem in your own project, by writing a few paragraphs and some steps about exactly what you did and putting it out there anywhere, it's findable. And so that is the easiest way to share what you've learned. It doesn't have to be any more formal than that. It's just like, wow, I needed to do this. I found these modules. I did these few configurations. And those things actually are often good for your own reference. I mean, I used to do this all the time on Thinking in Pencil on my old website. I would document everything that I went through to do a particular thing, setting up APC, setting up location stuff, whatever it was. Actually, when John and I went through and did the accessibility audit on the CVS Caremark corporate site, I wrote about that, and it was a post that was in the top 5 for Drupal and 508 compliance in Google results for years. It's probably still in the top 10, and that has clearly become a reference for people on a daily basis. So that
but John, I need to challenge John and Jason on this a little bit and ask the question, because John prefaced this to say it helps your business.
Yeah.
And I want to challenge everyone on this call to say, we're in the 54th or 53rd episode of this podcast. Has this podcast affected your business in terms of getting new customers and generating new revenue?
Okay, so I can answer that question.
Yeah, I think I would actually like everyone to answer it.
Yeah, but let me answer your first question first. Your first question was, does being involved in the community lead to business?
Yeah.
I would say getting involved in the community, being in the face-to-face Drupal community, is the single biggest place where I get business. I mean, it by far. It's at least double or triple any other source.
What does that mean to you to get involved in the community, Nick?
Going to Drupal camps, going to Drupal meetups every month, being on IRC. Well, IRC is part of the community, but I don't get business from there generally.
Is it the face-to-face? Is it face-to-face work that's the face-to-face community that's getting you more work, or is it the online community?
Yeah, face-to-face in general. And I would say I really got involved in the face-to-face community about 1.5 years ago, and this year my business is set to increase about 5,000% over.
5,000%.
500%. Yeah, 500%. Sorry.
Wow, that's still a
awesome number.
Wait, I did the conversion from to percent.
It was a metric conversion thing,
Yeah, no, I
so
can't.
let's leave it at you have a lot.
500%.
Yeah.
And it's and as far as from this podcast, definitely. While I haven't gotten well, actually yes, it definitely has. I was able to bid on a job for a municipality last year because I knew Jason was going to be able to help out with some of the theming. I was able to get a project about 3 months ago because I knew that you, Stephen, were going to be able to help out with some other stuff as well. And just knowing that I have somebody that I can bounce ideas off of when I run into a complex problem has allowed me to go after more confidently go after projects.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that we've had anything that came concretely from doing this podcast, but I can say concretely that every new project that we've gotten in the past 1.5 years has come from some conference, and that is it's absolutely true. All the projects that we have with Yale came from my giving the keynote at the Western Mass Drupal camp at the beginning of last year, which led to me giving the keynote at the Yale Drupal event, which got us on their list of approved vendors, and has led to 3 huge projects, which in total are probably past the 50% mark of the work that we're doing this year.
Right. How about you, John?
I'd actually like to answer with a story. I am co-organizer, I guess I would say, of Nude Camp, which is the New England Drupal camp. And I actually, a couple weeks ago, went to site a location for next year's camp. And I walked in and I met my contact, and they were actually having an event there that day. He wanted me to see the setup. I walked around, and 2 or 3 people, like when they heard that I was like a Drupal guy, were like, "Oh my gosh, you're into Drupal? Can we talk? Can we have a can we have a conversation? Can we maybe do business together, but just have a conversation at this point?" And of course we can talk, and we'll see where it goes. So, that's one instance of being involved and it having. Now, I can't guarantee that that's going to turn into business. I can't guarantee that anything will come from those connections, but I never would have had the ability to make those connections if I wasn't involved in a Drupal camp, organizing a Drupal camp. As far as the podcast, I have had people say, "Oh, you're on a podcast, and that's cool. Let me check it out." And has it, again, I'm in Jason's camp, has it directly been like a reason why people have chosen Oomph over somebody else? I can't say for sure, but it is a factor in their decision. It shows, it shows an understanding of the subject matter of Drupal, and it shows comfort to be able to express that with others.
So for me, I can say definitively that I've had, I don't know what the number is, less than 10, but more than 5 people that have reached out to me because of this podcast that said, "Hey, I've heard of you, I know who you are," or I've reached out to them and they've validated who I am based on what this podcast is. So I can't tie any dollars to that right now, but I can certainly say that it has affected my visibility in the community.
Right. So I think that's I think we can sort of put this in 2 columns. One is that we're contributing what we learned. So we're putting out this volume of information that's encapsulating lots of things that we learned to help other people learn, and we've had tons of guests on that have shared what they've learned. But it's also, like you say, it is something that then it becomes a validation of our own experience, and then it becomes a tool for us in return. And I think I wholeheartedly subscribe to Seth Godin's linchpin mentality. The more you give away,
the better you get back.
Will come back 1 billion%. I mean, that has been, since the day that I left Adventures, I guess it's about 5 years ago now. That has been my mentality, and it has paid. It has paid every single time, and the things, they just keep coming, because what I realized is knowledge is the product. I mean, I don't need to build a product. I actually have it. I mean, I know stuff that people want, and so getting a chance to teach it or or pass it on in some other way becomes something that people would like to purchase, and so it's been fantastic in that way. And that was before I ever made a single commit. We haven't even gotten to the other ways that we can contribute.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let us do that, because we're going to move on to Iger.
Oh, fine.
I would like to shamelessly promote my talk at Design for Drupal. If you'd like to
Sure.
talk about those other ways, come on down to or up to Boston and
Next
listen
Friday.
to next Friday and listen to my talk with OOMP's CTO, Dave McKinley. We're going to be co-presenting, and we'll be talking about a lot of the business benefits of giving back to the community and being part of the community.
I think just to close it out, I think it's worth saying that all the things that we talked about have nothing to do with writing code. Yes, there's lots of ways you can write code and test patches and do all that sort of thing, but these are all things around Drupal.org that are in anybody's hands to be able to do and make real valuable contributions to to what comprises the Drupal community and the Drupal body of knowledge.
Great. So I got a text message from Nick last night that said, like, I'm so excited about some stuff I've done in Iger, and I'd like to let you know what I'm doing. And him and I will do that sometime in the next few days, but let's talk about that now. So, Nick, before you get into what you did, give a 30-second overview of what this tool is.
Yep.
and what you did with it. And I'm interested to hear what everyone else has to say about your accomplishments.
Okay, so I'll start with what Iger is. Iger is a hosting control panel built in Drupal for Drupal. So it takes place of Plesk or cPanel or something similar. Basically gives you a nice GUI interface for creating Drupal installs. You can have multi-sites, so it does allow you to create multi-sites on a particular code base, but you can also have what they call different platforms if you have different products. And you can even set it up so that if you have a customer that needs to create websites, you can set it up so that they can basically create and set up a website without needing to interact with you. As long as you have it set up in a way that it's a distribution or has an install profile or a drush make file or something, it'll work. So what I did yesterday that I was so excited about is I actually have a client that's using has Iger, and we had a need to bring on another developer to handle some theming stuff. But the developer, actually I should say designer didn't have a whole lot of familiarity with either how Iger works or kind of the platform that I built in general. So I needed to sandbox him so that he could do what he needed to do, but there wouldn't be any risk to the actual project. And he wasn't familiar enough, and the system isn't set up in such a way that doing it locally is a viable option. So what I was able to do is use Git, just create a branch, and create a new platform based on that branch. And then within the Iger control panel, say, I want to clone this particular site, and then point it to the new branch, and say clone, and it created a database for the new site.
Nick, are you saying that Iger knows about Git?
No, I did that part manually. So I just sorry, I skipped over steps. So I logged into the server, created a branch, created a new file structure, and just pull.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But that's all I did. Then I told Iger, hey, there's a new platform. This is the folder to look in. So it validated that it was Drupal, made sure I had all the modules it needed, et cetera, et cetera. Then I went to the site that I wanted him to use as a base and say clone this, chose the new file base. It set up the vhosts, created the database, exported the database from the other site and imported it to the new one, and then copied all the files over. So he has an exact replica of the live site on his own domain that he can play with. And it took the clone process. This is something I've never done before. It took me maybe 5 minutes from beginning to end. The longest it took me was to log into the server and create the new file structure because I had to remember where to put it.
So Nick, of those 5 minutes, how much of that time was based on you having expert knowledge of this configuration website?
You mean the actual website or the Eiger?
Yeah, both. Like,
Nothing. You wouldn't have to know anything. All you have to do is
okay.
go to the Eiger control panel and you click on the site you want, and there's a clone button. You click clone. It asks you for the new domain name. It asks you which platform to clone it to, and it will even give you warnings. So, for example, it will say, "Hey, this is a different version of this module XYZ. It may not work. Do you want to continue?" And then you can say yes, no. If you say yes, it will clone it over, and then the longest part is copying the files. It took maybe 3 minutes for it to copy over.
So
Wow.
who should be considering looking at Eiger? Or Eiger?
It's Eiger. So I'd say there's a couple
Or Eiger.
couple different markets. I think one is it's good for development shops that need the ability to spin up prototypes very quickly. So it almost allows you to kind of branch the site development. So you can always branch with Git, but it's sometimes a pain or difficult to branch the database or branch configuration. This allows you to create copies, backups, migrate sites. So if you're like, okay, I don't know which module to do, you can make a backup, you can clone it twice, and then try one path, the other path, and then decide which one is the way to go, without having to log into PHPMyAdmin, log into MySQL, do any of that stuff. I think the other place that this has application is if you have a client who needs the ability to spin up microsites. So, for example, an example I've thought of in the past is like a realtor. If you have a realtor that sells high-end homes and they see value in having a website for each home, they're selling $1 million homes. You can set this up so that they could have a domain pointed at the server, and then they can install the website and go from there. They don't have to contact you every single time they need to update or create a new one. You can support the whole package. You can also, if you want to do kind of a websites as a service type thing, it has credit card integration, so you can basically sell accounts. When somebody purchases an account, they have the ability to create a website. Although that's a little bit more advanced, but that's kind of what it's for.
Nick, what do you have this running on? Like, as far as is it a dedicated box, or is it more of a, is it just a server that you spun up and it's pretty much running anywhere you can have it run?
Well, you can't run it on something that has cPanel or Plesk. I mean, you probably could figure it out, but those generally kind of take over some of the vhost stuff as well. If you have a system that takes over the configuration of Apache, you need more advanced knowledge to install it. I have it installed on everything from usually I install it in Ubuntu, but it's usually just a VPS or a dedicated box. I have it running on everything from a 1 gig box to a 6 gig box, and runs fine on either. I did have a little bit of difficulty integrating Varnish with it. Eiger runs kind of special cron tasks in the background, and for some reason that stopped working. But I just integrated it with Cloudflare a couple days ago, and it's worked without a hitch. It's very powerful. It takes a little bit to set up, but once you do, it allows you to spin up sites extremely rapidly without having to create databases or hook them up. You don't even have to visit the install screen. You can just say, here's the domain. So if you have a development domain with wildcards, you can create a website for a client that's client.website.com and just point them at it and they can see it. And if you need to have dev versions of that, you can. And it also allows it's a very cool system. I'd be happy to talk about it for a whole episode again, I think, but there's probably no need for that. I think it's probably time to move on to the module of the week.
Yeah, why don't we do the module of the week, and then I'm gonna toss it over to Jason to talk about some of the upcoming events in the area, and then I think we'll probably wrap it up. So the module of the week this week is feeds tamper. Nick, how have you used this module? What's it good for?
Feeds tamper is good for a lot of things. What feeds tamper does is it gets in the way of feeds in Drupal and allows you to modify data before it gets put into the database. I would say two of the biggest uses I have for is when you have a multi-value field that's being imported, using it to explode the list. So if you have a taxonomy with 6 terms that's separated by commas, you can use feeds tamper to separate those into separate terms. Otherwise, you would just get one term that has 6 commas in it. Another thing I use it for a lot of the time is setting default values. If the source isn't completely clean, but it always needs to be on or off or something, you can use feeds tamper to do a find and replace instead of a default value as long as the column exists. It's extremely valuable. Anytime I'm using feeds, I usually have at least 1 or 2 plugins.
Yeah, I actually just used it to take a comma-separated list out of a comma-separated file, which seems weird, but basically a list in one field, and I used that to pre-process it so it would enter it into a multiple value field.
Yep.
Worked great. It was the best thing ever. Blew my mind. So I recommend that one if you need to do that sort of thing. So Jason, you want to tell us about the upcoming events we have? We have quite a few of them.
Yeah, we do.
We already talked about D for D, but you can kind of give us a brief overview of that one again if you like.
Yeah, sure. So the Design for Drupal conference has been going on for a number of years as a conference focused solely on the design side of things, and it was not always so closely focused. And I really tried to work very hard to address that this year as the content chair. And I think we have shaped up a really great mix of things. So Friday is actually a business-focused day. So it's things that are actually across running the studio, making Drupal part of your business. So it's kind of a higher-level day for managers and executives to check out. And then Saturday is 2 tracks with 2 sessions going in each track all day long on everything in design in one track and front end and theming in the other, and that's it. It's a great lineup. And then Sunday there are code sprints and 2 different paid trainings. One is an intro to Drupal 8 theming given by Forrest Mars, and the other is a responsive bootcamp being given by Steve and myself.
Jason, I gotta ask a question. Like, what is the cost of attending an event like this?
Well, it's great that you asked that, Steve. It's a good thing for us to share. The cost to attend the event is actually only $30 for all 3 days, and that includes lunch. So it's an incredible value, even if you end up just going one day. If you want to go to the trainings on Sunday, which are actually, also I should mention that there is an Intro to Drupal training on Friday afternoon that is totally free. So if you have staff that you want to get up to speed, or if you're curious about Drupal and you want to have a good introduction, that's an awesome option. If you want to get much more in-depth and do a full-day training on Sunday, those are, the early bird tickets for Responsive Bootcamp have sold out, but it's only $350 for the entire day. And and then that also includes lunch, and that $350 includes entry to the rest of the conference as well. So it's a pretty great value. There's still a couple tickets left for Forrest's Intro to Drupal theming at only $250, and then still plenty more at the $350 level. So it's actually still quite a bit cheaper than most other full-day paid trainings that we've found. So we wanted to make sure that it was as strong a value as we could provide. So that's next weekend, the 1st to the 3rd.
So for developers that are interested in getting like a jump start in responsive design in Drupal, this is really a cost-effective way to do it.
Yeah, you'll come out of it by the end of the day with really practical hands-on experience, all the sample code you could ask for, tips on different responsive themes that you could start with, or tips on how to make your own, and be really thoroughly grounded in it. And I mean, we've given this workshop several times now, and we've always gotten really great feedback, both at Drupal events and also just as a general front-end development focused piece for designers and developers alike. So that's next weekend. That's August 1st to the 3rd at the MIT Status Center in Cambridge, and it's just always a great event. And then in September, we have coming up the Nerd Summit at UMass. That's September 12th to the 14th at nerdsummit.org. They've got some great keynotes and lots of stuff that is both Drupal and also
open source.
Sort of open source focused.
Yeah.
So that looks like it'll be a great event. And then we have all of you guys, and I'm the odd man out, are helping organize Nude Camp right here in Providence on November 1st, and we have none other than Jeff Robbins giving the keynote. And I should mention, actually,
Jason, what do you mean by you're the odd man out?
Because I'm the only one who didn't say yes when you said, "Hey, let's organize an event here in Providence." Because I knew that
you've been just as involved as anyone else, right?
Well, I kibitz.
Just to be sure, right?
And to be honest, I think my wife is making a far better contribution than I. Ellen has been having a great time doing some of the marketing and promotion, and she's really been enjoying that. So if you want some entertaining facts about New England and the American Revolution, you definitely have to follow Nude Camp on Twitter.
Yeah, I think that your wife has been a great addition to this team to put this camp together. John, I feel like you have comments about that, but
I'm just glad we got the better half. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I knew that I was going to be traveling a lot in the couple months leading up to it.
Yeah.
So, and as it turns out, I've just added another. Going to Minneapolis, Minnesota, the last weekend in August to teach a workshop at Front End Masters. That'll be pretty interesting, and be traveling out and about for the next couple months. So.
All right. So, anything else? Anyone else? John, do you want to talk briefly about Drupal PVD?
Oh yeah.
We'll close
out.
Yeah. Thank you.
So next month's Drupal PVD is on August. Give me a second. 13th. Is that right? Yes, August 13th. And we're going to be changing the format up a little bit. We're going to be doing a mentoring mixer. So bring in your Drupal problems, Drupal questions, and we'll have smart people there to help you solve them. We'll come in, we'll listen to your issues, and match you up with people that'll be able to help you work through them. You can bring your laptops and work right there if you want, or just bring a notepad to take some notes, and then go home and try it on your own. So we'll be doing that on the 13th, starting at 6 p.m. at the Founders League right here in Providence, Rhode Island.
Great.
And I also want to add to that if you want to help, if you'd like to be a mentor and help other people solve Drupal problems, you should get in touch with us, because this is something we want to make a regular part of our meetup every month, to dedicate some time to helping build relationships within the community and help people help each other. So don't be shy.
Great.
And you can join the meetup group on meetup.com/DrupalPVD and get all the automated notifications and stuff.
Great. You know, it was really good today to sort of reconnect with the three of you. So thank you for your time, and it was great to talk to you again. and we will have a podcast next week, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody have any conflicts?
Nope.
I don't think so.
All right.
This is too much commitment for me. I'm fearing.
So I'm going to end this with my quick story about last week. So
We've been waiting for an hour for that.
Yeah, so I needed to get my license renewed before I drove to Florida for 12 hours or 1,200 miles last week, and I went to the registry, the DMV in Rhode Island, and they said I need to go to the basically the Rhode Island tax place. It turns out that my tax return was not filed from 2 years ago. They didn't have a paper return of it. So that's what I was stuck with like last week or 2 weeks ago for this show. I needed to I had a paper return. I filed it, and I had to bring it back to them to get them to see it and file it. And it took me like 5 hours to do that.
Oh, jeez.
So when you go to the tax office and they say to you, we don't have a tax return for you, and it's a very scary thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a scary thing because they owed me money. It was like $50, and I gave it to a charity because it was like $50. So I gave it to a nonprofit in my return, and that's how that ended. That's why I spent 7 hours on the 2 weeks ago the episode, because they said I didn't have a tax return filed.
Sure,
but I say I did. So.
Sure, spun up Google Hangout. That would have been fascinating.
It was. It was a very stressful 3 hours for me, but turned out to be nothing at all. I mean, they processed the tax return. It was exactly like I said it was. I had the thing in my office in hard copy, and it was done quickly. So
it's good. Good that it was taken care of.
Yeah, it was taken care of, but that's why that podcast did not happen 2 weeks ago.
I feel like maybe Steve wasn't on vacation last week. Maybe he was in jail.
Yeah.
Gotta do a little time.
I was afraid I was going to be in jail 2 weeks ago. But everything is good. So that's my... I can give you a lot of gruesome details before that, but everything's good now.
Well, that is good to hear. Glad to have you back. I'm glad you have to show us the prison tattoos later.
Take care, guys. Anything else? We will end this episode. It's been over an hour. Anything else before we leave?
I think we're good. End strong.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
See you next week.